Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. Happy Monday. We've got another episode of Zach's season of The Bachelor tonight. I'll be live streaming beforehand at 7 p.m. East Coast, 4 p.m. Pacific, and then I will be not live streaming afterwards. I've got some stand-up comedy dates I'm working on, so we'll have no after the show live stream, but plenty of extra content for you guys to binge today. Hannah Brown relives the Luke drama. We're going to jump into the story right now. She was on a podcast discussing what it's like, a couple years later in hindsight, dealing with the chaos of her season and her own mental health journey. Follow me on Instagram at DNeals, patreon.com/Dave Neal for behind the scenes bonus content. I'll tell you what, if you want to be a part of the Patreon, I just released a 50-minute video of my wife and I watching back our wedding album photos for the first time. So if you want to see some behind the scenes of all of that love and joy and drama, and well, actually my wedding was no drama, I shouldn't say that. You can go check that out, patreon.com/Dave Neal. And of course, every afternoon, Bachelor Rush Hour, the podcast, go check that out for extra bonus content every afternoon. All right, let's jump into it. So Hannah Brown was on The Squeeze, which is a podcast hosted by lovers Taylor Lautner and Tay Lautner. Yes, those are their names. We might remember Team Jacob over here from Twilight, and here they are doing The Squeeze. Let's hear what Hannah Brown has to say regarding her mental health and, of course, the infamous podium-moving rose ceremony she had when Luke P. would not take the hint to leave.
For me to have that time. But when you're the lead, a production cost of you have this amount of days.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what you feel like, how much time you need.
Yeah.
We're getting this done. So there was no, when you're the person on camera the whole time. So there were no breaks.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the times I was having these dramatic, I watch some, people will post things for me on the show. I'm like, I was so dramatic. But I think it was also this cry for help of I haven't had time to really sit down and think about how I feel.
Yeah.
I am narrating the show, but I also have no idea how I actually feel.
Yeah.
And that was the part.
It's not so hard in life, though, to create the space to look back and have that retrospection. We're so hustled and so day-to-day on the grind. How often do we meditate and really reflect on our journey, especially when you look at someone like Hannah Brown when she's got a whole film crew following her around?
That's why I would have these random freakouts. I feel of just how am I supposed to make these decisions when you don't have time to think?
Yeah.
I would and you're so tired. I was talking to I'm still close with the stylist on the show, and we went and had dinner that lasted forever, and he was like, I remember you would sleep while the late Gina did your makeup. I'm like, oh yeah, anytime I could sleep, I was sleeping, so I wasn't thinking, and so then we ended up with my season.
Oh my gosh, we were just talking about it. Popped up on my Explorer page. The what's his name?
Oh, the iconic moment.
Where you freaking lose the saying, oh my gosh. I forgot about that, and rewatching it, I was like,
yeah. I mean,
The best part of this scene that they're alluding to, which they just showed the copy of Hannah Brown moving the podium, is that it was during the live finale. So the audience is clapping along. You get that live reaction of one of the most iconic moments in Bachelor history.
cue for your season because it entertained us for
well, also now hearing you say you literally don't have time to process. I can only imagine we saw the frustration in your face, but you literally couldn't even think of it. You couldn't process it.
Yeah, people are like, well, did you think I was like, I really thought I went a switch of crazy that hadn't been flipped on before, flipped on then, and I thought I was going to fight somebody. More because I'm just mad. And it wasn't even to the guy. I think it's just the whole situation of why it was happening. I'm like, I don't care how heavy this thing is. I am and it was kind of heavy.
You didn't make it look heavy. You just moved it.
I was like, oh, okay. Yeah.
you had super strength right then.
Yeah. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. You're welcome, everyone. It was a different experience for sure. I definitely didn't hold much back.
Oh my gosh. No,
yeah. But
you're yourself. That's commendable. And we love that. But I also wanted to touch on just you kind of said after the show, I've gotten to know Susie and Clayton really well. And even before I knew them, kind of the backlash that they got from after the show, and just kind of seeing what the show didn't they only fed into it with the girls season after. did you have support after? Did you feel like you could go? Was there mental health help after that? How do you feel?
No. I've noticed this about myself with a lot of the shows and things that I do. I'm still trying to figure out why I do this, but I isolate myself really and kind of like dissociate.
Yep.
And after the show, I wouldn't go home. I would only talk to producers, which is probably not healthy. I couldn't talk to my friends. I didn't know how to process what I was going through because those people were there. So I didn't have to fill them in on everything that happened.
Not to use a sort of analogy to war, because of course going on The Bachelor, she'll have no idea what it's like for the people that actually braved and fought for their lives and put their lives on the line and saw death and all that. But there is a comparison to the camaraderie of someone else who has a shared experience. So that's why you see a lot of the alumni dating within their alumni groups, because they know what it was like to have the nasty DMs. They know what it was like to have the whole world looking at them or having been canceled. Now, whether you call it canceled or not, Hannah Brown had to deal with her own controversies after her season, of course. We've discussed them at length. She's had to overcome her own big issues, not just with love, but also social issues. And it's something that most people don't deal with because they're not in the public eye. So while, she's in no place asking for anyone to feel bad for her, I can understand why she felt more connected to the producers, even though they were in part of her problem, than she would her own family and friends from back home.
And, I'd never done therapy and didn't have that, hadn't done that.
Yeah.
I knew I needed help. I definitely knew I needed help, but I just didn't know what to do. I was out here by myself, literally by myself because I was so isolated. I wanted to do as much press as I could, not because I wanted to be out there, but it was just something to do because I could talk about that. And then I didn't want to be at home, but I didn't want to talk to anybody. And I still catch myself going into that. That's kind of my cycle. I shut everyone off and kind of go inward.
Yeah.
So I definitely did that before, but I was looking for any type of distraction that wouldn't make me have to open up to somebody, talk to somebody, just more like work, I guess.
Yeah. It's so insightful. And I think that's so awesome that you've learned that. Because I always feel not that mental health is like addiction, but the first step is realizing you have a problem. I feel like that's very applicable to a lot of mental health struggles. The first step is you got to realize something's wrong. For me personally, it took me a long time. Yeah. I mean, you too. But
I'm still, I feel like we're similar. I still am very much in a place where it frustrates me because I feel like I can't put my finger on it.
Yes.
And of course, when they talk about mental health, in a lot of ways we criticize the show, but I need to equally criticize audience. The show didn't create these villains with the extremities that exist now. So when the show started 15 years, whenever it was, years ago, social media wasn't on everybody's ass the way they are now. So they could create a controlled fire, solve the fire by the season being over, and then everyone overcame it at the women tell all or the men tell all. So they could create a villain and then recover that villain. Now, not to say that that's a good thing, but they could get away with that. In today's world, that's just not happening. You see the great unfollowing, the social, and again, I'm not saying whether it's good or bad. It's not just about building someone up and then ripping them down. It's the sort of salting the earth afterwards, scorching their future opportunities for growth. Usually you mess up, you do something bad in normal life when you're not a celebrity or have any sort of influence. You learn from it, and then the next week you pick yourself up and you do better. In a lot of cases, what we're learning is that they're having a hard time picking themselves up because no one's letting them forget the issues and the mistakes that they made. Yeah, some people might call me an apologist for that, but I think that's one of the bigger issues with social media is that how many apologies do people need? How many times do people need to overcome recover from what they've done, or the apology wasn't said in the right way, or not used the right words, or this or that. And with social media, it almost feels like you're constantly reliving your darkest days when you've made a mistake. And then you have leads and alumni who are afraid to even, or, make that mistake in the first place. So anyway, that's interesting because I do believe the blame needs to be placed on an audience that is sort of like bloodthirsty. Not everybody. Don't take offense to it. When I generalize, people go, oh, not me. No, of course. It's the 1% of psychotic people that reach out to, Hannah Brown's dad or Hannah Brown's sister or ex-boyfriend, or, just the wild people that do that because they can. They have that access. We need to sort of find a way to take that access away and be more insulated so that people can watch the show from outside and not feel like they're in the living room sitting next to a contestant while criticizing them. I don't think that's fair.
I can't figure out why I'm doing something or why I react to something. It really frustrates me. And I'm in the middle of that journey right now.
The dissociation and like the isolation part is really, it's something like my friends who are my friends, like they have like stuck with me because I just shut people out. I'll go like, and people who work with me. So I go dark.
Yeah.
And
same.
Yeah. And that's hard for relationships. Like, I think when I'm out of it, I'm very like,
We'll cut it off there. You can go check out the full thing. Hannah Brown opening the Scary Closet on the Squeeze podcast with Taylor and Tay Lautners. And of course, she says, I go dark. I think this is why Hannah Brown is as sort of well received as she is because she does share that, hey, look, I might have dimples. I might be smiling. I might be a pageant queen. I might have won Dancing with the Stars. I might have done all these things, but I go dark, and this is why. And it takes a while to learn that about yourself. I'm happy she's sharing her story, along with everyone else who's sharing their stories. I guess you can share your story as long as your name's not Luke P., and then you get sued by the producers. But that's another story for another day, which we have covered. Let me know what you guys think. Again, I'll be on the Patreon right after this, patreon.com/Dave Neal. Every afternoon, Bachelor Rush Hour, the podcast. A lot of big guests coming up. I'm going to be doing a lot of other people's podcasts. A lot of good things in the works. You're going to enjoy it. So make sure to subscribe to the Rush Hour, Bachelor Rush Hour, the podcast, if you haven't already. Like it, follow it, share it with your Facebook communities, and we'll talk to you guys later. Bye, everybody.